There will be order.
Let's listen to each other.
Thinking about the events of last night, I was at the executive committee meeting for the Salt Lake County GOP. Huge concerns about the process and the trial and the lives that were affected by the decisions that were reached last night. So I ended up leaving around 1 a.m. They continued to, and we had seen 2 trials, and they were their intent was to do 6 more after then. The executive meeting was held first. Thank you for all the wonderful people who showed up to show support for these great, wonderful people in our party who are being charged, and for the many people who are watching online and paying attention. We are worried about this. This should not be happening in our party. There were concerns that were brought up before a trial even commenced, and one of those biggest concerns was that if this is a Roberts Rules trial, which it's supposed to be.
We're holding a Roberts Rules disciplinary hearing tonight.
For what?
For infractions against the bylaws and the party and Roberts Rules of Order.
What'd they do?
That's none of your business because we're about to go into trial.
There needs to be an investigation, and there clearly was not an investigation.
Have you done it all the right
I want
way?
you to know I never got an investigation. Michael Carey, I never got an investigation.
Yeah.
That's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion.
It's not an
Nobody
opinion.
contacted me for an investigation. This is not my opinion. And that's defamatory because it's true.
And so Monica raised that point, and Kay Sanderson raised that point.
I was just wondering if we could get a copy. Who was the investigating committee that was that actually decided to have us go to a trial? There should have been a Roberts Rules of Order 6311 says that there should have been appointment of an executive committee, and it's actually.
Okay, I don't mean any disrespect, but this would be out of order.
And don't interrupt her.
Discussing something that it's not out of order.
It's not out of order.
It's not out of order.
Yep.
You can bring it up after we go to the executive session.
It should be held.
Mm-mm.
It should be held. The investigation should begin with somebody who makes a motion to start an investigation, and then there needs to be a committee that's assigned, and they need to do a report, and they need to contact the defendants. None of those things happened, and then they're supposed to have a write-up of their findings. When we raised that concerns in the past, Mike Carey said, well, we already know what happened, so we don't need to have an investigation. Well, that's not how it works. You need to have an investigation. And one of the charges that he said that they impugned the good name of the party. Well, that implies that there was some harm done to the party. And so he needs to be able to show some harm. And they haven't been able to show harm that was done to the party. I've had conversations with Mike leading up to this, and there was no harm that was ever shown. You can't imagine that there was harm. It needs to be actual harm if you're going to charge somebody with something. Another concern is that what these individuals did was exactly what's explicitly written in the bylaws is encouraged to do. The party is supposed to encourage people in the party to raise concerns if you see something that you believe may be illegal, that you should raise it to the proper authorities. Well, there was a concern that this was illegal conduct for the party to support certain candidates in a non-partisan race. And so in this race, there are no Republicans, there are no Democrats, and they wanted to endorse certain people by the executive committee, and it would appear that it was being endorsed by the entire party. And they were worried that that would have an improper endorsement for these people. They raised the question, and they talked to Mike Carey, they talked to the executive committee, and they said, if you're concerned, Mike emailed them and said, if you're concerned, talk to the Murray City PD, police department. And he's right, they should go to the authorities. That's what the bylaw says, that's what the chair said, and so that's what they did. They reported it to the proper authorities. They actually went to the attorneys, the city attorneys, and wanted them to weigh in on it. And so that's what they asked for. This is no different than seeing a burglary or seeing something and calling 911. And if you suspect a crime, if you suspect problems, calling 911. In fact, yesterday at the meeting, Mike wanted everyone to leave, and so he threatened to call the police.
It's fine. Mike, we're all watching you.
8:02 and 8:05 we'll be calling the police.
Everybody is watching you.
Vacate the property if you're not a member of the executive committee.
Okay.
And this is no different than what these individuals did. They just notified authorities. They didn't call the police. Theirs was not as big of a deal as that, but they just notified the attorneys about it. So it was totally within what they should do. We should encourage people within our party to report concerns of election integrity. We have seen egregious concerns of election integrity this last year in the governor's race and in other races throughout our state. And so we want, as a party, should be encouraging people to do that. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. We are deeply concerned with the direction that the GOP is going, especially in Salt Lake County. We should be supporting our own. We should be calling these people out as heroes. who are expressing concerns about process. We should be grateful for them, and now we've lost some of our strongest leaders. Members of our state central committee, they removed them from their assignments from state central committee, from executive committee, as precinct chairs, as state delegates, as bylaw committee members. They had all of these positions they had been duly elected to by their constituents and by their neighbors and friends, and now they are being removed for those positions.
I was gonna say, we don't exactly have people falling out of trees to volunteer for these positions.
Don't kick them off.
It's the
The ones
purview
you
of the
got.
region chair to find someone to serve on the ethics committee. Okay, because it is his purview, the bylaws, to appoint that person. It isn't up to us to sit here and say, well, how many people have you got? Have you got 5 or 6 or 10 people begging to be in this position? Because we don't. Flat out, the problem we have in our party is we're trying to get volunteers all the time. We look for the best possible person we can find.
One additional thing is that this never should have been brought before the executive committee. If the question was whether they were acting in good faith in making this complaint, then it should have been an ethics concern brought before the ethics committee. Instead, it went to the executive committee. The bylaw state the executive committee have responsibility over bylaw violations. Well, they didn't consider this a bylaw violation because it's not. They went to Robert's rules, and the bylaws specifically say what they did is encouraged, but they instead went to try to find something from Robert's rules, and that's outside the scope of the executive committee. So lots of concerns all around. So we're keeping an eye on this. We expect better from our GOP, and we expect better from our leaders of our state. And let's keep paying attention and keep blowing whistles when we see these problems.